Welcome to Adventures with Dice. I'm Rob and I'm your host for these videos. If you're new here and you find that you like the content that I put out, please consider subscribing and liking the videos. Those small clicks really help a channel like mine out. If you would further like to help out the channel, click on the Amazon wishlist link in the description of each video and you can choose some product to purchase that will help me continue to make content. You can also hit that join button and for $1 a month become an Adventures with Dice hero, which gives you a badge on your comments, early access to videos, and access to my members only videos. Now, with all of that self-promotion out of the way, I hope you enjoy the next video and stick around for future videos. God bless. Let's go. Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about Tales of Argosa. This is a new game that came out. Kickstarter ended in 2024, late 2024. It's from Pickpocket Press. They, fulfilled their backers and from the Kickstarter, and then sent some review copies out. And I'm going to get into all that in just a minute. I have played and talked about a lot of games over the years. It's kind of what this channel does, and you'll notice there's a lot of channels out there that they find one game and they focus on that one game, and that's really all they do. And there's nothing wrong with that, because some of those are channels that I love to go to. There's several that focus on HeroScape and HeroQuest that I like very specifically. Bandits Keep, Daniel focuses mostly on old school D&D. Every now and then he branches out. I think he even did a video on this. But this channel has always been about trying different things. That has in the past gotten me accused of game hopping, and that's true enough to an extent. I do like to try different things. I don't want steak every night. I want to try different things for different reasons. And I have done a bunch of games, and I've gotten a huge game collection because of this, and that causes a problem after a while with storage, and you end up with stuff just sitting around that you're not using. Mainly because you find out at some point that, especially as you get older, that you don't have enough days in the week to play the games that you like or that you love. I try to not do reviews on games that I think are bad. Every now and then I'll do one that I wasn't happy with after a purchase. But for the most part, I try to keep my reviews positive on the games that I'm showing off to everybody. So, in essence, yes, I still love White Box. I still love Basic Fantasy. I still love Old Swords Reign. I still love Dark Places and Demogorgons. I still love basic D&D. All of these are great games, and they all do different things. They scratch different itches, and basically what it came down to is I'm approaching 50 years old very quickly. And last year in 2024, I decided to start scaling back some of my game product just because there's too much sitting around here. It takes up a massive amount of space. And I wanted to really focus in on the stuff that I really love, I really want to play and spend some time in, and not just bounce all over the place with tons of different videos. So I started paring down my collection. Now that did mean getting rid of some stuff, which I haven't found a real effective way to do other than eBay. But there's other stuff, like I'm not getting rid of Basic Fantasy, I'm not getting rid of White Box or Dark Places or basic D&D, any of that stuff. A lot of it has just gotten boxed up and put in my game closet, and one day my kids will be going through all that. Basic D&D is still on the shelf because I still use it quite a bit. So as far as RPGs that I cut down to, basically what I'm keeping on my shelf is I have Star Trek Captain's Log, which is the Modiphius Star Trek solo version. I've made a couple of characters. I've made a starship with it. I have not been able to put in any time playing it yet, but I do intend to do that. It is more of a journaling type solo game, but I love Star Trek, so I think it's going to be cool. I got Warhammer Fantasy Role-Play, which I'm currently running a weekly game of. We're playing through the Enemy Within campaign. We're almost done with the first book, getting ready to do the second book. I still have, keep my Dragonbane out, which I also currently run a weekly game of. I keep out my Beck Me D&D because I still pull it out and use it from time to time. And I love the old school rules. In fact, I just used it this past weekend to do a 12-year-old's birthday party who wanted a D&D birthday party, and his mom asked me to come run a game for him. And I'm probably going to do a video on what I put together for that and how it went here this week. Both Hero Quest and Heroscape are holding spots on my shelf. Heroscape is more miniature war game, whereas Hero Quest is more your board game / light RPG. But I love both of those, so I'm excited to do videos on them. And I had kind of settled in on that, and I'm like, okay, well, this is good. I'm good. And it was at this point, after making my choices, and I was happy with them, that I got an email that threw a monkey wrench into all my plans. And I wouldn't even know it had happened for another few days. So I got an email from Mike over at Solitary RPG, who I'm friends with. He made me the cool Dragonbane dice tray. I did a video on that. And he told me in the email that him and Deathstalker 5 from Random Encounter Show wanted to check in and see how I was doing, because I hadn't put anything out in a while. And, I explained to him what was going on. And I explained my absence in my recent video, Return of the Rob. So if you're interested in what was going on, you can check that video out. And it was about this time that both Deathstalker 5 and Solitary RPG put out videos on a new game called Tales of Argosa. And the cover art is just amazing. And it instantly drew me in. I mean, just look at that. That's absolutely beautiful. And I don't know why, but on the back of it, that's just cool. Look at that logo. That's just amazing. But I talked with Deathstalker 5 at length. We were messaging back and forth and in private messages and talking about the game and the creator, which is Steve over at, and let me see if I can pronounce his name. His last name, Grodzicki, I think. If I butchered that, Steven, I'm sorry. But he was telling me all about the game, and that Steve was in his Discord, and I joined the Discord, and which I don't do a lot of Discords. That's mainly the only one I do is the one for Random Encounter Show. But I also got to talking with Steve, and turns out he's a super awesome guy. Now, did I need another fantasy RPG? No, obviously. I already had D&D, Dragonbane, Warhammer Fantasy on the shelf, each of which covers a different role of fantasy for me. From classic dungeon crawling to grimdark fantasy to high fantasy, mirth and mayhem. But Tales of Argosa was designed to cover something that the others didn't. Sword and sorcery fantasy. I'm a big fan of Robert E. Howard's work, Conan, Solomon Kane, stuff like that. So I wanted a game like that. And what I had seen in the videos really turned me on to this game. However, there is way more to it than just sword and sorcery. And I'm going to touch on some of that in this video, this video is just an overview of the game and the products that I was sent. And then in this series, I'm going to start going chapter by chapter and looking at every part of the game, breaking it down so that you can watch and really get a feel for the game and what it is. The first thing that I'd like to do is I'd like to thank Deathstalker 5 of the Random Encounter Show and Mike at Solitary RPG for their videos on Tales of Argosa, as that is kind of what put this wonderful product on my radar. Second, I would like to thank Steven from Pickpocket Press for sending me a physical copy of the book. He sent me the Oracle dice and the deck of signs. So, thank you, Steven. I appreciate it very much. He's, like I said, he's a great guy. I've conversed with him quite a bit on Messenger about the game, and he's been very happy to answer any questions for me. So what is Tales of Argosa? At first glance, just from the cover art, you might assume that this is a setting book with a game system attached to it. It both is and isn't that. See, there is very little setting for Argosa in the book itself. There's some gods, some monsters, some factions. They're sprinkled in throughout the book that tie to the Argosa setting, but they're really only there as examples. You are encouraged as a game master to take this game and make it your own. Tales of Argosa is kind of the second edition of a game that came out a few years ago called Low Fantasy Gaming. And a lot of the Argosa setting can be found in those books, which are available on DriveThruRPG. But here's the caveat: you don't need those books. There's enough here that you can just take this and run pretty much any kind of fantasy setting you want with it. Yes, its inspiration is sword and sorcery, but it is so much more than that. And you'll see when we start looking at the character classes, there is more to it than just your typical sword and sorcery type stuff. And no, you don't have to have any of those other books, but I do know that Steve is working on box sets to expand the Argosa setting, and those box sets are going to be designed like the old D&D box sets. So I'm very excited about that because I loved the old D&D box sets. Looking very forward to seeing those come out. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I will tell you how to get your hands on a copy of Tales of Argosa, and even how to try it out for free. Now, one might also assume that this is just another OSR retro clone, and while it does share some DNA with those type games, it's not exactly that either. As you'll see in this video and upcoming Tales of Argosa videos, this thing is its own beast. It is not like you see, like, just take White Box and Basic Fantasy, for example. They both do kind of the same thing in slightly different ways, and the slightly different ways that they do it are so slight that they're almost interchangeable. You can take Basic Fantasy Adventures and run them with White Box, that kind of thing. This, you could do that, but you would have a little more legwork because this game has a lot of built-in subsystems and charts and things that make it very unique. So I tell you what, let's start. We've looked at the cover. Let's start with looking at what Tales of Argosa says about itself. So the first thing you're going to notice, you're going to see all these tabs. I put tabs in. It obviously doesn't come with tabs. But I like to be able to quick reference certain parts of my books that I use a lot. And obviously the amazing cover art. The art is this good all the way through it. But when you open it up, I love this. I love this. And I know Tales of Argosa is not the first one to do this. I know Old School Essentials does this. They waste no space. every inch of the book is used for gaming purposes. I'll try to move everything so it's all in view, or as in view as possible. Now what this is you'll find this on the front and the back cover. So every bit of space is used all the way through the book. This is your GM screen. Now you can download the GM screen for free off DriveThruRPG and print it out, which I did initially before I got a physical copy of the book. And it's just really good. I've never seen a GM screen that just covers everything the way this does. Initiative, turn order, morale, conditions, crits and fumbles, death and dying, rest and recovery rules, exploits, which we'll get into what that is later, movement and range bands, party retreat rules, skills, great success and terrible failures, which are a really fun addition to this game, montages, chase rules. You've got your weapon charts, your ranged weapons, melee modifiers, range modifiers, miscellaneous modifiers. And let's look at the back. You've got the trauma tables, which are really neat when you get a really good hit with certain types of weapons or attacks. You get to roll on these tables, which mean you're not just subtracting hit points. Bad things can happen to your character. You can end up with a broken ribs, broken leg, busted spleen, whatever. I mean, you could get all kind of stuff. You have blade trauma, blast trauma, blunt trauma, missile trauma, toxin trauma. And then we have supply rules, which I'll get into more when we look at character creation, reaction rolls, food and board services with prices, custom monster rolls, the activity, which this goes along with the activity die here, but you don't have to have the activity die. You can just roll a d6 or choose. And then you have quick and dirty NPC generators. You have names, roles, traits, quirks, motives, and secrets. And you can random roll or just pick off of there. Really, really useful GM screen, and I love that it uses the inside of the book because I don't need blank pages. And then we open up, we get another cool piece of art right here. We get the credits page, the license, everything's on here. We get a nice table of contents. And then we get these two pages, which are what is Tales of Argosa. And Tales of Argosa is a sword and sorcery inspired emergence play adventure game for groups or solo play. Adventures are short, sharp, and focused on dangerous wilds, treacherous cities, fierce battles, ruinous magic, fabulous treasures, and cosmic weird. It has simple rules, flexible PC customization, improvisation, support, and emphasis on GM rulings. It's a mix of old school, modern, and new game design wrapped around a familiar D20 core. We have battle is fast, brutal, and exciting. Any sword swing might lead to fractured bones or severed limbs, and the threat of character death is ever present. Retreat and chase rules allow players to decide when to push their luck and when to get the heck out of there. We've got Dread Sorcery. Argosan sorcery is not only rare, it is dark and inherently dangerous. Be it arcane spell or divine blessing, magic is a power not meant for mortals. Those who engage with it do so at their peril. Now, a lot of games will boast that, oh, magic is dark and dangerous and this, that, and the other in their games, but very few of them really follow through on making it feel that way. And when we get to the magic section, I'm going to explain the DDM, which is the Dark Dangerous Magic rule. And you'll see that it is a gamble that you're making, and the stakes raise every time you cast a spell. Tales of Argosa scenarios are focused on personal contests against savage wilderness, treacherous cities, murderous monsters, and mysterious ruins. PCs are not epic heroes charged with saving the world. They are sword-swinging, skull-splitting adventurers seeking fortune and glory. We have Emergent Play. Argosa is designed for short, sharp adventures in a sandbox world. The GM offers rumors and hooks, but the players decide where to go and what to do, which tales to investigate, factions to interact with, ruins to explore, etc. Tales of Argosa mechanics, procedures, and tables and oracles equip the GM with a plethora of support tools to adapt to player choices. It's an adventure game. Tales of Argosa is about great gameplay moments with friends or solo. Like many games, an impartial referee is required. In this instance, PCs and the setting. In this instance, PCs and the setting. This is facilitated by rolling in the open, demonstrating that the risks are real and the world is independent of the GM. This approach also allows everyone to be surprised by what unfolds, including and especially the referee. From this meeting of wits and chance will spring astonishing adventures, fond memories, lasting friendships. Enjoy. Then we have the core features of the game. Now, this is where you're going to notice some stuff that is definitely different from other when people think this is just an OSR game. You're going to see a lot of difference between this and the OSR games right here. So in the core features, Tales of Argosa is a D20 based with the following features. There are 9 classes, and the first one on the list is not one that most people will think of when they think of sword and sorcery, but we'll touch on that in a minute too. But of the 9 classes, you have the artificer, the barbarian, the bard, the cultist, the fighter, the monk, the ranger, the rogue, and magic user. Only 2 of these involve magic. There is a 9-level max that caps PC power levels. There's a flatter curve for most PCs will have approximately 10 to 40 hit points over their 9 levels. There are unique features, which is a whole chapter in the book we'll get into, but every 3rd level you get to choose one of the ones that's in here or get with your GM and you can make up your own unique feature for your character. We have roll under for ability checks, making every stat point count. Skills allow access to a PC's limited re-rolls, which again I'll explain during character creation videos. Willpower and perception attributes replace wisdom. Ranged attacks use perception, not dex. Minor, major, and rescue exploits on top of damage, not in lieu of, promote improvised stunts and moments of greatness in the game. Fast initiative, 1 player rolls for the whole party each round, and you take turns going around the table, aiming to roll equal to or under their initiative score, which is an average of dex and intelligence. If they succeed, the party goes first. Otherwise, the monsters do. Diminishing luck. Attribute replaces saving throws, ratcheting up the danger with each save. Fierce battle. Martial exploits, natural 19 effects, crits, fumbles, morale checks, and trauma rolls make for action-packed battles. When reduced to 0 hit points, healing takes 1d3 minutes, magical or otherwise. Players don't roll to find out if their fallen PC lives until after the combat, when somebody can come and thoroughly check on them. Unbalanced encounters. Tales of Argosa is designed for unbalanced combat. Clear escape rules put the fate of the PCs in the player's hands. Do they fight another round or do they run? Short rest. PCs may attempt will checks to recover hit points and class abilities, encouraging the party to press on rather than to camp. The DDM, the Dark and Dangerous Magic, threatens to unleash Veil monsters, madness, mutation, or worse. Meddling with sorcery is not for the faint of heart. Downtime rules for carousing, pets, black market trade, master forged gear, gambling, recovery, potion brewing, magical research, scroll inscribing, rumors, and more. Emergent play support for group and solo. via mechanics, procedures, and the GM toolbox, including range bands, reaction and activity rolls, morale, consulting the Bones Dice Oracle, reading the Signs card deck Oracle, Hexploration procedures, dungeon events, travel events, random encounters, XP awards, treasure tables, weather, hirelings, NPC tables, diseases and parasites, madness, traps, and more. It has a Creative Commons license, so you can produce material for it. Rules are a guideline. The GM is the final authority on all rules, which are expected to be tweaked to fit table preferences. There's also a variant rules chapter in the back that you can look at for inspiration on that. Then the next 2 pages are a how to play thing where you read through somebody playing a game to get an idea of how it works. And then the book jumps right into character creation, which we're going to talk about in its own video. I'm going to flip through character creation and just show a little bit of it, but I'm going to do in-depth videos on each chapter, through character creation, the classes, the races, party bonds, everything. Now, like I said before, this is an overview video, so I'm just hitting the highlights as I'm going through each section to tell you what's in the book. I may mention things that don't make a lot of sense or you don't understand what they do. Just look forward to the video that specifically, like the character creation video that I do. I'm going to go into thorough detail on it about what everything means. Excuse me. But as far as character creation, you have a 17-step process, which seems like a lot, but it's really not. A lot of it's just adding derived statistics and stuff to create a character. In the spirit of quick and emergent play, player character creation is mostly randomized by default. For tables that prefer more control, modify the desired chart by the variant rules in the back. So if you don't like doing the random character creation, there are other ways to do it. But just by the standard thing, you roll a d12 for your race. You roll a d66 for your background. You generate your attributes. You choose your class. You note down your starting luck. You note down your initiative, your hit points, what your death save is. You list your skills, class abilities, battle gear, your armor class, your attack bonus. Choose your bonus languages. You randomly determine your age, and you can randomly determine your name, or you can just choose a name yourself. And then finally, you roll a d66 on the party bond table to connect how the different players are initially connected together. And then you have a d66 table here for backgrounds, an explanation of what all the attributes mean, your attribute modifiers, how luck works in the game, and then we go into your races first and what each race gets as a benefit. We start with humans. You also have dwarves, elves, halfling, and half-scorn. I'm just touching on them a little bit. The half-scorn are a bestial type race. Think of them kind of as a stand-in for orcs. There are goblinoids and hobgoblins, that kind of stuff in here, but I noticed there was no orcs, and I asked Steven about it, and I asked him, was it an oversight, or were the scorn meant to stand in for orcs? And because it's the Argosa setting, he doesn't have orcs, he has scorn, which are very similar. And if you didn't want to use the scorn, you could just simply rename them orcs, because they're basically the same thing, very similar. That's up to you. Classes, we get a description of how the hit points, wounded, leveling up, class abilities, class features work. This one, the Artificer, is one that a lot of people, when they don't think of when they think sword and sorcery type games. But I don't know. I would digress. If you're thinking just Conan, sure. But I also consider, I know this is hokey, but like He-Man, Masters of the Universe, is a sword and sorcery setting. and an artificer definitely fits into that. And when I read through this, I've never had a desire to play an artificer type character in any version of D&D. But when I read through this, and we'll take a more in-depth look at it in the character videos, this was just amazing. But you have the artificer and all of his abilities through his levels. You have the barbarian, you have the bard, you have the cultist, which can either be good cultist or it could be your religious fanatics and clerics and stuff like that. And then we have the fighters, the magic user, the monk. And this artwork is just, again, just phenomenal. We have the ranger, the rogue. Then we have the party bonds I was talking about, which is another D6, 66 chart, where you're rolling to connect like these two characters, and then this character and this character, and this character and this character. And there's a variety of different connections they can have. And these can be ongoing storyline things, or they could be how they were connected in the past and explains why they're adventuring together. Then we have a chapter on unique features. And unique features are kind of like a feat type thing that you can get, but you can use the ones from here, or you can make your own, just work with your GM on it. There's explanations on how to do that in here. Then we look at skills. Skills work a little differently in this than they do in other games, like, you know, third, fourth, fifth ed D&D. The skills, basically having the skill doesn't mean, if you don't have the skill, it doesn't mean you can't try something generally. It just means that when you have the skill, you have a better chance of what you're doing going off. And I'll explain that more as we look at that in future videos. Then we have the equipment section. And the equipment section is going to explain what how the supply rules work for common, uncommon, rare, and very rare. You have common gear, an explanation of all of it, food services, the cost of lifestyles. We have melee weapons, ranged weapons, armor, animals, vehicles, and ships, Master Forge gear, and then we get into doing things. Doing things, group checks, retries, great success and terrible failures, random checks, montages, encounters. And this is that chart I was talking about. This is where the encounter die comes in. Oh, roll fire. So intelligent creatures would be sleeping, relaxing, reading, drawing, recovering, waiting for something. Unintelligent or other creatures would be sleeping, relaxing, recovering from illness or wounds, waiting for something. And again, you don't have to use this special die. It is kind of cool to have it, and what gamer doesn't like dice, right? You have influencing NPCs and how that works. Then we have a section on combat. And combat in this game is not as straightforward as just, oh, I hit the AC, I did 5 points of damage or 10 points of damage or whatever. There's a lot more, not complication wise, but it adds more option and flavor to it to make combat really fun, really emergent, and really deadly at the same time. But it covers, charging, falling, blocking areas. You've got chase events. Let's see, you've got your different actions you can take in combat. And for the most part, combat's going to feel very familiar to anybody who's ever played a D20 game. Critical hits and fumbles, melee attacks, ranged, natural 19s, which are a specific thing in this game. It's really neat. It's not a 19 or higher. It's if they roll a natural 19 on the die, it triggers effects that are linked to their weapons or abilities that they have. You've got minor and major exploits, rules for rescue, trying to rescue someone who's about to get, waylaid in combat or something. Fighting styles, miscellaneous factors like cover, visibility, surprise, underwater combat, so on and so forth. You have your conditions: blind, burning, dazed, encumbered, Fatigued, grabbed, helpless, near blind, prone, starving, stunned, wounded, and what each one of those does. Then you have injury and death, wounded and 0 hit points, how to make a death save, injury and setbacks, what that does to you. And then we get into those tables, the trauma tables, and that are on the GM screen, but they're also right here in the book. Healing and recovery, how that works. And then we get into sorcery, spell casting, and I love the fact that it does not use the Vancian style magic. It uses a very different style magic. There'll be a full video on sorcery. The dark and dangerous magic table, right up here in your face, all the stuff. And not everything that happens on this is horrible. I mean, most of it's horrible, but it's not all horrible. It's not like you just instantly die. There's a bunch of different things that can happen. It's a D100 table, I believe. Yes, D100. And then I have a couple of character sheets in the way. Characters that I was making. Get that out of the way. Divine blessings and rebuke. So you can have kind of the same thing, a divine rebuke, which is like your dark and dangerous magic, but for your cultists who are casting clerical type spells. Rites of atonement, when you've ticked off your god or your whoever it is that you get your power from. Then we have the spell list, the spells with a description of them, and we skip to the next section, which is there's a whole section on downtime. And I just love all the charts, the downtime period, downtime events that can happen. Rolling for the different, or you don't even have to roll, you just pick the different types of buildings. It tells you how much they cost, examples of the buildings, your advancement with XP. Now in this, you have multiple ways to do XP, and like, loot, combat, exploration, social, or bonus XP, and you just pick a couple of them that you like, and that's how you award XP, is based on what those say. You got black market trade, you got carousing, and more wonderful charts of things you can get into. Gambling, potion brewing, pets. My daughter is going to love that. She's always wanting to do pets in games. Recovery, research, rumors, scroll inscribing. That dude right there has been in there a while. Then we get into the GM tools section, and you have diseases and parasites. And just look at that. Wow. Diseases and parasites, which is a really neat section. Dungeon crawling, talking about marching order, dead adventurers, who's got the light, dungeon events that can happen. And I like this because this is very similar in an aspect to the timer die that Runehammer uses in his games. But it's the timer runs down and something good might happen, something bad might happen. It's a dungeon event. You don't know until it goes off. You've got pretty intense rules for hexploration, breaking your watches or your parts of the day down into morning, midday, afternoon, evening, late night, and pre-dawn. Exploring while you're traveling. Everybody takes a job. One of the travel roles, like lookout, guide, forger, scout, rear guard, quartermaster, support. And then we have more charts on the night shift, charts for weather, charts for exploring the hex, travel events. And they are travel events whether they're over, land, underground, or on a voyage. Then we get into a random encounters section to explain how random encounters work within this game, obviously. And each area has its own kind of random encounters, like aerial, city, town, or village, deserts, jungles, forest, mountains and hills, oceans, lakes and rivers, plains and grasslands, roads and trails, snow and ice, swamps, underground. And then we start looking at hirelings. What kind of role does the hireling have? How much does the hireling cost? And we have that chart for coming up with their names, personality, their traits. Hireling gear. What gear do they start with? Give them a catchphrase. Hireling advancement, because they can advance up to become a character in your group as well. Payback. You know, if you betray a hireling, are they going to come seeking payback later? Rules for madness. So a little, you know, crazy Lovecraftian stuff can be mixed in here. Then you have rules for mass battles. Sudden twist within the battles. Then you have the monsters section. And it has what the stat blocks, everything on the stat block means, and then how to create your own monsters, and an example of monsters within that category, that strength level. So we're going to look at special traits here. Bosses, demons, and undead have special traits attached to them. A heavy has a special trait, a special ability, immunity to non-magical weapons, and then incorporeal creatures, lycanthropes, magic resistance, off-turn attacks, regeneration, senses, swarms. And then we start with animals. You have apes, birds or bats, bears, boars, cats, dire animals, horse, rat swarm, rhino, shark, snake, tiger, wolf. Then you have some of those Lovecraftian type terrors, eye terrors, gibbering terrors, the random terror traits that they have, skinless terrors, animated objects, giant ants, banshees, basilisks, fire beetles, bugbears, boule, centaurs, giant centipedes, chul, cockatrice, giant crocodiles, cyclops. And then demons, we have Baylor demons, Basseter demons. You got a bunch of different kind of demons. Hellhounds. I'm not going to try to pronounce all those. And we have dinosaurs, man. A whole section on dinosaurs. You have dragons, you have dwarves, giant eagles. We have elementals, elves, ettins, fey creepers, flesh-eating vines, gargoyles, gelatinous cubes, ghost ghouls. Then we have fire giants, hill giants, storm giants, frost giants, goblins, gnolls, golem, like flesh golems, iron golems, stone golems, green slime, griffin, hag, hammer snail, harpy. And then humans, we have several different types because you're going to deal with a lot of bandits, presumably. Human archers, human assassins, human bandits, human berserkers, human commoners, human cultists, human champion, human guard, human knight, human mob, human sorcerer, hydras, invisible stalkers, lakeworm, leech, projectile leech, lich, giant lizards, lycanthropes. You have were-rats, werewolves, mammoths, manticores, medusas, mimics. You have minotaurs. You have man-eating monkeys. You have mummies, Natark, I don't know. You got jellies. You got giant octopuses. You got ogres, ogre mages, gray oozes. You got owlbears. You got purple worms, giant rats, rock grinder, ropers, rust monsters, giant scorpions, scroaches, giant serpents, serpent men. I love that that's in there. There's too many versions of D&D that don't include that in the core book, and I love using serpent men. Shades, shriekers, skeletons, the scorn themselves, which you can just reskin for orcs if you want to. Scrats, slope gorgers, specters, giant spiders, sprites, sturges, bone cutter ant swarms, tentacle spawn, giant toads, treants, trolls, ergots, vampires, vine puppets, giant wasp, wights, will-o-wisp, winged snakes, frost worms, worm plague, wraiths, wyvern, Zarox, Zorling, Yingu, Yegnu, I guess. Yellow mold. Then you have different types of zombies: brain eater zombies, giant zombies, walker zombies, swarm zombies. And then we go into a section on naval combat. And it's really like Pickpocket Press really went all out and thought of everything. Boarding actions, black powder weapons, crew versus crew. And then we hit the Oracle tools. And you have 2 pages of this. One explains how to use the Oracle dice Consulting the Bones, which I love this system. And the deck of signs, which we will take a look at in a video specifically for them. And I'll explain how they work in that. But I will say this. Both the deck of signs and the Oracle tools are not tied to this mechanical system. So you could use these in any solo play that you wanted to do. And I think that's pretty cool. Also, we got cool bookmarks there that match the color scheme of the book with the kind of burgundy and black. All right, so we have charts for rival adventurers, and it's various types of the 9 different classes. Then we have the solo rules. The solo rules are absolutely amazing in this. I love how they work. They're not just, tacked on. There was some real thought put into playing solo with this, and it's going to get its own video as well. But I love the lone wolf rules that are in here. Dungeon generators. This allows you to generate dungeons on the fly. You could do it mid-game if you wanted to. Probably take a little bit longer, but if you're wanting to design a dungeon from the ground up when you're writing your adventure, this is absolutely phenomenal. But you have, the size, the objective, the dungeon site, where is it, rewards that you're looking for, main opposition, special leader. And then inside the dungeon, there are just tons of charts for doors, rooms and corridors, room themes, room content, room themed items, complications within a room. Then we have a section on traps and sample traps and just how deadly the traps are in this game. And here we go with our examples of them. You've got acid, alarm, arrow darts, crushing walls, deadfall, drowning, fire, explosion, gas, lockdown, magic, monster, needle, pit, poison, relocation traps, rolling, boulder traps, scything blade traps, self-destructing traps, snares, spears, and spikes. And then we get a section on treasure, and this is kind of unique in the way that it's done. The treasure in this is it's not the standard loadout way that a lot of these games handle treasure. And I'm gonna, like I said, there'll be a video on this where I'll go into greater detail. But it breaks treasure into groupings like carry loot A, carry loot B, valuables A, valuables B, trinkets and curios, layer treasure, minor magical items, major magical items, and each one has its own charts to tell you or to let you roll on or pick what would be in there when you're designing your adventure. And I think we're getting close to the end here. Scrolls and spell books, and there's some extra spells back here in the back that can be used as treasure. Minor charms, major magical items. All right, there's a whole lot of really cool magical items. And one of the things that's really missing from Dragonbane, I know they have a magic book coming out, but there's not really, other than the stuff you can pick up playing through their campaign, there's not really a section on magic items in the book. It doesn't give you an explanation of how to create them or whatever. Or a bunch of them already pre-made like this is here. Then we have the variant rules section. There are variant rules for customizing PC creation, swapping out class abilities, making the game more deadly, less dark magic, less dangerous magic, individual initiative, simultaneous initiative, distances in feet, small party play, strength for thrown weapons, advancement beyond 9th level if you want to go higher, class and race background and skills, longer adventures, conversion tips for converting, things from like BX, OSE, Shadow Dark, AD&D, and similar games over to this. And then a very extensive index, which I know that Mike at Solitary RPG pointed this out, and I agree with him. I love having an extensive index, because when you're first reading through one of these games and trying to learn it, this is invaluable. And people who don't put this in their books, that's a mistake. Then we have one blank page. It's the first blank page I found. And then this cool art piece. And then we have the final side of the GM screen. And that's what's in the book. Now keep in mind, I'm just hitting highlights and doing kind of an overview of the book. It's gonna have I'm gonna have videos on each section where I go into a lot more detail. I don't know if I'll be able to do all of the character classes in one video. I may have to break them up and do a couple of character classes per video, because some of them have a lot of information to go over and some of them don't have as much. But we're going to be getting videos on that. We're going to be getting videos on using the dice for the Oracle. And this Oracle is not just for solo play. And while it is great for solo play, it's also a fantastic tool for during the game when your players go off script and they do something that you weren't expecting. It's very easy to use these to figure out where to go next or what to do. The deck of signs, which is also from Drive-Thru RPG, I got it. I don't keep my deck in it because I am very, very much a guy who has to sleeve all of his stuff. So I sleeve these, and these are kind of spark cards. And they do. They spark your imagination. You pull certain cards, you pull a certain amount of cards, and then you kind of use that to inspire you for the answer to the question that you're looking for. And these are generally not yes/no questions. These handle yes/no questions really well. This is more of a who is this big bad that we're after, or what is his motivation, that kind of thing. So I do keep them in a separate box, and they will be getting a video as well that I'll be going over. And that's a basic look at what Tales of Argosa is. And I don't know how you can look at this and not just be floored by how cool this game is. I have been through this repeatedly, and I cannot find anything I don't like. A lot of times when I'm reading these games, I'll look through them and I'll be like, okay, well, I like 99% of it, but there's these two other things here. I want to change this, or I want to change that. I haven't found anything here that I want to change. Now, granted, we haven't fully played this yet. I've done a little bit of solo stuff, just messing around with it. But my group is going to be playing this as we're doing the Enemy Within campaign. It's 5 books long. So in between each set of books, we're going to take a break, play something else, and just kind of cleanse the palate before we go back into the next section. So I know that when we finish the Enemy in Shadows book, we're going to be playing Tales of Argosa. And I'll be honest with you, there is no reason you couldn't use, if you don't like the Warhammer Fantasy percentile system, like my wife and daughter, they don't like it. If you don't like it, but you like this system, you could easily use this system to play Warhammer Fantasy. It would not be hard to convert stuff over at all. Now, the other thing I talked about, or wanted to talk about, was where do you get it? Right now you get it through Drive-Thru RPG, and the PDF is $24.95. The physical and PDF are $44.95. So still cheaper, a little cheaper than a lot of your more high-end books, and this is high quality as it gets. But you can also go on Drive-Thru RPG and look for Tales of Argosa public playtest and download it for free to look through it and try this game. Now it's missing some art, maybe a couple of tables here and there because it was the playtest version, but it's almost the entire book, because that's what I downloaded first and started looking at.
and I was amazed. It's like 200 and something pages, 230 or 40 pages. It's most of the book. So if you just want to try it out, that's one way to go. Also, get the playtest for free. There are, I think, 3 adventures up for Tales of Argosa right now. One of them costs like $5. The other 2 are free. You can get them, and they are straightforward, simple adventures, but they have pre-gen characters of various levels, whatever levels are appropriate for that adventure, already made and in the booklet, and you can print them out, hand them to your players, and you guys can play and give the game a go and see if you like it. So you really can try the game out completely for free, and I cannot see trying this and not then just salivating over getting your hands on a physical copy, unless you're one of those people who just wants digital copies, in which case get the PDF, because it's a really good PDF, hyperlinked and everything. Well, that's all I've got for this overview. I hope that you really enjoyed this. I enjoyed looking through it, even though I am nearly out of breath from all the talking. But look forward to more videos. We are going to be coming back with the character creation videos next. Next in this series, anyway. And until next time, my friends, good gaming.